Thank you for joining me for my PowerPoint presentation on playing Shen, Eye of Twilight in the League of Legends TCG Riftbound. Mastering the Ninja Way. Highly recommend you take a look in the link in the description and have the deck list open while watching. My name is Top-Bun. Let's get into it. Like any presentation, it's important to discuss qualifications first and foremost. So why am I qualified to talk about Shen and Riftbound as a whole? I have an extensive history in this TCG as I've been playing for 2 whole months. With the launch of Vendetta, I even made top 8 at this past month's Summoner Skirmish, only to get bent over the table by the Azir that would go on to win it all, but that's not important. Finally, I'm in the 1000 club with a 415 deadlift, 305 squat, 285 bench, and 165 overhead press. Shout out to my boys over at Riftbound. So why play Shen? You shouldn't. However, if you were like me and mained him for 5 years in League of Legends and have Stockholm Syndrome, you may feel compelled by divine providence to try and make him work. While his legend ability isn't terrible, you aren't going out of your way to give something tank at action speed, or to utilize his signature spell, Shadow Dash, aka, I wish I just drew another charm. Therefore, falling back on a good color combination and utilizing a lack of matchup knowledge is how we are going to win 90% of our games. But look at the bright side. If you are a tournament player, chasing that metal best of card may very well be within your reach. So how do we pilot Shen? Simple. We are a ninja, so we act like it. And what is a ninja? They are sneaky. We utilize various hidden cards to keep our opponent guessing. It's the one upside of holding a battlefield in this game. We get to hide cards and be even more proactive during our opponent's turn. Ninjas are also mobile, so we leverage cards like Tactical Retreat and Emperor's Divide to back out of showdowns we don't like. That's what separates us from traditional hold decks. We aren't just a hold deck. Finally, embrace the way of the coward. We aren't orange. We don't try to swing fights we can't win. If we can't use our bag of tricks, we can just leave. On that note, we are not a traditional hold deck. We play like one, but we don't have the legend ability to support it. Think of an actual good hold deck like Vex, where the legend ability rewards you for a successful hold, or Ari, where every hold they have an inherent advantage. This is not one of those decks. Tank is useful both offensively and defensively, so we'll leverage it that way. The Vendetta Shen Chosen Champions may seem like they encourage a hold deck, but this is bait. Either they themselves or the one other unit at that battlefield with you will be targeted and you will be sad. I still cannot believe they had 2 whole chances to make a half-decent Shen, only for them to both get mogged by Origins Shen, our chosen champion for this list. So then what kind of deck are we? I'd like to take this time to coin a new term of deck, one that flexes between both a defensive and offensive style of play, introducing the boxing deck, trademark TM patent pending. Riftbound is a game where conquering is inherently stronger than holding, even with the hidden card aspect in mind, so we'll do our best to maximize it. Cards like Kennen, Keeper of Balance, is a perfect example. A card that can be hidden, but also utilized as a pseudo-attacker for a retake or push to the opposing battlefield. Or a card like Nami Headstrong, a buff piece that rewards us for holding, but can also assist on the attack when paying the additional cost when it comes time to play her. I forgot that she even got that stun effect on play as well. Don't worry. So when defending, we play like a traditional hold deck, utilizing Sona to keep the runes up, and use combat tricks like Discipline and Key Barrier, and then, should we need to, we can pull out with Tactical Retreat or Emperor's Divide if it looks unwinnable, only to then attempt to retake or pivot to the other battlefield when the situation arises. Diving into a more specific game plan, let's talk early game and mulligans. Unless going second with something like a Nami or Kennen in hand, you should always be mulling 2 to try and fish for a 2-drop, ideally Honest Broker. Crab and Disciple of Shen don't feel terrible, but both struggle to retake a battlefield early if our opponent decides to contest us on our battlefield of choice. This is where the one of Twilight Shroud is invaluable in certain matchups, preventing an early gust and stalling our point scoring tempo or development. When looking at your hand, if you have the 2-drop, the next priority is Sona Harmonious. This card is the only reason the deck functions. I would run 6 of them if I could. By that same point, however, do not slam her down turn 2 without a plan of keeping her alive or preventing a hand bounce during your opponent's following turn. Thinking ahead and learning how your opponent will try and dislodge you will be key to winning. Moving on to the mid-game, this should be no surprise. We are doing everything in our power, within reason, to protect our value generators, i.e. Sona and Nami. I say within reason because we want to avoid the pitfalls of other hold decks and loading up on a single battlefield, only to then get Thousand-Tailed, Bellows Breath, Decreed, and lose the game on the spot. Think of your opponent's colors and common cards and what tools they'll try to use to target your key pieces. While your opponent is worrying about that, look to steal points every turn we can. Cards like Charm, Shadow Dash, Fiora, or any unit buffed and readied by Nami are great at this. Opponents will often get greedy and hold the respective battlefields with their early 2-drop, so you may be able to get a cheeky conquer. You could even consider throwing a hidden card on that newly conquered second battlefield if you can afford it. All else fails, do what your absent father should have done and work on your pullout game. Abandon ship if a situation looks untenable and resources are low. Moving back to base, even without Emperor's Divide, is still fine. It's much harder to target units in base, typically, than on a battlefield. Naturally, a deck like this is going to live and die by its combat tricks, so here's a few of my favorites. The 2-cost spell Block is an objectively bad card, but in our colors and on Kinku Temple, which, spoiler alert, is our Game 1 battlefield, it's a 4-might swing for either 2 runes or a single recycled. Amazing. We'll continue our ninja trickery by sideboarding this out after every Game 1 because, however, it's still a bad card. Speaking of Kinku, cards like Fiora Victorious are suddenly much scarier on that battlefield as we can tap on our turn, granting +1 might, tank, and other keyword slop on demand, saving us from having to either accelerate something from hand or Emperor's Dividing and swinging from a battlefield. Finally, as I alluded to before, hitting cards are our friend. We run Honest Broker because we are hiding so many cards, and it's nice to not have 4 runes by turn 5 from recycling runes if we can help it. A hidden card means it could be anything to our opponent, and while they are mulling that over and adding to their mental stack, they are more likely to make a mistake. I've won games by hiding a Disciple of Shen on a battlefield knowing that my opponent will assume it's something better. Strong cards are strong, but hidden cards could be stronger. Battlefields are pretty straightforward. I've messed around with all the usual hold staples, Paper Tree, Star-Tipped, Bandle Tree, Fortified Position, but these are the 3 I've landed on. Without question, Kinku is going to be your Game 1. It provides us with a ton of tricks, utilizes our Legend ability, and best yet, next to no other decks utilize Tank like we do. It's a perfect blind battlefield. Should we lose Game 1, which is a very likely possibility, we're going with Grove. It's too good of a battlefield not to use. Our opponent will likely be more proactive about contesting this one, however, so plan for early aggression and spells like Falling Star to be played earlier than you may expect. If we're going second, Ravenbloom Conservatory is the choice. It's basically Grove with an asterisk. I can't imagine slotting in anything else with this deck at this time. Charm and Shadow Dash are now extra valuable on this battlefield as we can defend even when it's our turn. Note that when sideboarding, if you know you'll be playing on this battlefield, don't bring in too many units. Nothing feels worse than recycling Vi or Vilemaw that you would have needed to break the hold on the other battlefield late into the game. Finally, common matchups and sideboarding tips. I have close to 20 cards in my bench on Piltover Archive, so this is still very much up in the air. If you're one of the 5 other Shen players out there watching this, if you've considered a card, I've likely already tried it. That doesn't mean you're wrong for thinking it should come in, mind you. It's just that this is what works for me and my local scene. We've seen an uptick in Rek'Sais and Rengars, for instance, at our store after the Ottawa tournament, so Vilemaw became a 2-of in my sideboard. That's going to be coming in now quite a bit. If you're going up against, for instance, Netanyahu's favorite deck, Hand Bounce Ezreal, you should consider Crumbling Sands, since their deck is 90% 2 to 3 cost spells. Other examples are Ashe. It's still just as good as ever against Aurora, and the list goes on and on. In general, though, we like facing colors like orange, yellow, and red, because these are decks that usually try and force showdowns to utilize their own tricks, which is where we can at least attempt to leverage our Legend ability and hitting cards. But like I said, all of this is still a work in progress. Let me know what you guys think down below. In summation, always keep your opponent guessing. Have them asking themselves questions like, is that yet another Hidden Blade? Or a Zanya's? Do I need to strengthen my current battlefield? Why is my opponent willingly playing Shen? All these questions and more adds to the mental stack and helps throw our opponents off their game plan. Understand that scoring from the hold is our first priority, but we don't need to stay there. Pieces on the board are more important than cards in hand. Learning how to weigh the pros and cons of that will be the difference maker. And if all these questions are too much for you, you can always go and pick up Vex. Thanks for watching, and God bless.